You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michele Flamer.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi, Michele.
Thanks for pinch hitting and being one of my awesome co-hosts while River is taking a little sabbatical.
Anytime. I love chatting with you.
I know we have so much fun together. Today, what are we going to talk about? Why don't you tell the people?
Yeah, so I thought today was a good day to talk about fear.
Bum, 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 bum. Wait, so, and you were writing an article on fear for your community.
Yes, I was just writing a newsletter on fear because yesterday I decided that I was going to carry myself out onto a trail in the wildlife in upstate New York and conquer my fear of being alone hiking, which is one I have always had. I've been so lucky to have friends to go hiking with, and I've gone all over the world, but I'm in upstate New York. I've only been there for a few months. I don't know anyone, and it's beautiful out, and I want to go hiking. So I was like, okay, I must conquer this fear. I have to get over that fear of being alone. And so I did it.
And I was so proud of you because the look on your face said everything. You were just you felt proud also because you had really had a whole belief and a story set around what that might look or feel like. And I mean, so at the end, like, like planning a big party and then the party's over, like, was it like a little letdown or were you still were you feeling a little high afterwards?
Oh no, it just felt like such a beautiful way to start your day. I went in the morning and I was off the trail by about 11:30, and it really calmed me. The whole rest of the day was so calm. But I have to say, I was really fearful while I was hiking. So I was feeling that fear through the whole hike
Mm.
until afterwards. And then I had done it. So I was like, okay.
So how did you combat some of that fear, or was it self-talk, or like what were you doing for yourself to because in the area, some people may not know a little bit about upstate New York. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit of like what kind of animals have been around up there?
Yeah, so I've only been up there for about 2 months, and I went to try to get a little bit of solitude after I lost my second parent this past spring.
Yeah.
And I had this idea that I was just going to be out in nature and it was going to be like so beautiful, and my dogs would run free in my fenced in yard. And then I realized, oh, wow, there's actually a lot of, wildlife
Yeah,
around
you
me.
have furry neighbors, don't you?
Yes, I have furry neighbors. So I've seen bears 3 times, all near my house, literally right outside my fence, and big bears. And then we've got coyote and we've got like serious hawk life. So the hawks are the biggest challenge to my narrative that I had about what it was going to be like up there in this very relaxed fence-in yard. So I've had to really face a lot of fear actually while I've been up there, which I did not anticipate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really had the story that it was going to just be like safe and quiet and
Well,
beautiful.
and it was for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really was until it wasn't. And then the Hawks really got you scared as well. And what did you get for your dogs so that the Hawks don't get them?
Yeah, so I got them these hawk shields,
It's
which
so cute.
yeah, they wear, and this way the talons can't get into them, because supposedly I've read if you have dogs that are like less than 15 pounds, that hawks will try. And I've had a hawk perch on my property already, and that's when they perch, that's when they actually go in. So, it's just not been what I thought, but I have been making peace with it. And I would say what I've been doing is like, I really felt the fear. I mean, I felt it very strongly, and I talked about it and I let it really scare me. And then the more I let myself feel it and feel it and feel it, eventually it started to dissipate. I kind of started to just accept, like, yeah, this is a reality. Here are the things I can do to try to maintain the situation in safety, but I don't have total control, and that's okay. And so I came all the way out the other side, I'm going to say, by allowing myself to really feel the fear.
Yeah. I had a therapist, you'd appreciate this. I had a therapist, I think I was around 21. I just sort of come out and, there was a little fear in, coming out at 19, not knowing how your parents are gonna take that. I'm not truly like a fearful person, we're finding on the pre-chat, right? Like we were really talking about like what kind of fear have I ever encountered and things like that. But I would say that I really appreciated the therapist when she said, invite the fear into dinner. Like just invite fear in, have a glass of wine with fear, just talk to the fear. Do you think it kind of is similar to how we look at things with, internal family systems and there's fearful parts of us, or is that more of a psyche thing?
I think it's probably both,
Mm-hmm.
because I think fear is actually one of our core emotions that we are born with, you know, based on survival needs, survival instincts. So fear is really core. And we develop parts, depending on how we grow up, that can be extremely fearful parts.
Now, there's still a lot of people that don't know about internal family systems. So just for a second, could you kind of give that, just share what a little bit of what IFS is?
Yeah, IFS is a therapy model. It's one of the models that I use in therapy and with my coaching clients. And basically, it says that we all have a self. And sometimes it's hard to really access our true self because we have parts that have developed from early in life, the earliest times when we didn't have any tools to handle difficult situations. And we had parts that grew out of those times that really learn how to cope and make sure our needs are going to get met so we can survive. But they use really young and early tools to do so. So we all have a self. We really all have parts, and some parts can be extremely strong, some can be kind of, quieter parts, but we all have parts. And as we grow into adulthood, a lot of people find that they can't really exit certain ways of being or certain thought patterns. They repeat the same things over and over. They're just not really free. Like they're not really free to be themselves. And this usually has to do with parts that have been hijacking. I use the word hijacking your emotional system for a really long time, but really all with good intention to keep you protected. And so IFS is a model where you try to free up and sort of cultivate more self energy and start to get curious about your parts and create relationships with your parts so that eventually you can kind of really appreciate how hard they've worked for you for such a long time, and also free them up to not have to do that hard work, because their hard work that they're doing is taking energy from you. It's tiring to live in parts energy. So as long as we can start to develop relationships with them and really appreciate them and love them, they start to soften. They see, oh, wow, there's somebody here. We're not alone handling this whole situation by ourselves, but there's actually an adult present that likes us and appreciates us. And we can kind of sit down in a chair now. And then we get to live a little bit more from our adult selves, which really being an adult is very different than being a child. We have a lot more choice and we have a lot more freedom that we actually did not have when we were younger. So that's basically IFS in a nutshell.
No, it's a beautiful explanation, actually. Okay, so back on the trail, you close the door to your car, you are ready, you have your hiking shoes on, you had your hiking shirt on, I saw. Like
Yes.
you were playing the part of a hiker.
Yes.
And like you said, you've hiked all over the world. This is literally a solo adventure moment for you. And so what was happening for you Like, did you feel labored breathing already? Like even just entering the trail
A
and
little bit, a little bit. Like I saw a couple people, I saw, it was a little bit open initially, and then it started to get a little bit more into like trail where I was really deep in the woods.
yeah,
I mean, beautiful, like so gorgeous, but literally no one anywhere.
yeah.
And my only real fear was that I would encounter a bear,
Mm-hmm.
possibly like a mom and the cubs or something like that, and just get into a situation with a bear. That is my biggest fear there, because there
Yeah.
are no other animals that would really feel threatening there.
So what'd you do on the trail to like combat that?
Yeah, so I poloed you
Yes.
and you poloed me back, and I felt like your polos, me talking and you talking, that was like noise because I was trying to figure out like, how do I make noise alone? Do I sing? Do I talk to myself?
Yeah,
What do
all
I,
of that.
yeah. So I poloed you, I poloed a few other friends, and then you
Good.
shared the clapping. So then I was
Yep.
clapping.
The clapping really helps. My mom and I do that when we hike up in Jackson or Yellowstone.
Yeah. So, as I said, I've been literally all over the world. I've always been with friends. And so we're always talking or somebody's knocking their sticks together. But I had forgotten my sticks back in the city. So I was just me, and I was trying to figure out, how to really make some noise, which I did. And eventually I ran into people, and it was funny. They were like, "Oh, do you have a dog?" Because they heard me clapping. They're like, "Where's your dog?" I was like, "Oh no, it's just for the animals." And they said, "You mean for the snakes?" And I said, "Oh no, for the bears." And they were like, "Bears?" It's like, "Oh yeah, you don't know that there's bears? There are bears."
They were probably weekend adventurers, you know what I mean? They
Yes, they
didn't
were.
realize that there are bears up there.
Yeah, yeah. So
Good
yeah,
educating them.
it was like very exhilarating and like
Hmm.
and thrilling and kind of terrifying, honestly. And I felt very good about it afterwards. I felt really like, okay, I did that, and now I'm going to do the thing that gives me a little bit of a sense of control, which is I'm going to buy bear spray,
Yes.
which I did, and I think that now I can really get out there and not be nearly as scared once I
And
have.
you're going to bring your sticks, your
And
hiking,
I'm going to bring my sticks. Yes.
yeah, your hiking poles. Good.
Yeah. So
I'm
I
proud of
was
you.
thinking, yeah, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about this, just how big this fear was for me. And then I was thinking about this past week. I don't know why, but literally every single day I've gotten either an email or somebody's been in my DMs talking to me about fear. Fear of hurting their, people because they're realizing their sexuality, fear of leaving their family or their husband, because
Mhm.
what if it's not as good as they think it will be?
Mhm.
Fear of talking out loud in a religious community about their same-sex attraction, because when they tried it the first time, they were sent to conversion therapy, and
Wow.
now they feel really scared because they don't have anybody outside their religious community, and they don't know who to talk to, and they don't know how to start the process. Just fear I'm going to be alone, fear I'm
Mhm.
not going to have anyone.
Sure.
So this fear is really something I hear about in my work so often. And I just thought it was a really I mean, yesterday was a big day for me of just working through it. And it's something that
Yeah.
I encourage people to do so often, is like, just, yeah, like it's okay. Validate that you're scared. Like,
Yeah.
validate it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm really scared.
Yeah.
This is really scary. Let's play out all those scenarios. Let's talk about all of them. Let's put them all out on the table, because fear is not meant to get you stuck. It's just meant to be felt,
Yeah.
but it
It's
stops
just
us.
like it's a warning gauge in your body, right? It's like, hold on, something needs to be discussed. Stop what you're doing and let's like figure it out so that we can give it a name or we can, push through it. I mean, the only time I ever really felt that kind of fear was on this hike in Oregon, up near Mount Hood. And it was so like, God, the trail got so sketchy at the top that I actually got a little vertigo. And it was for the first time, and I've solo hiked for years.
Ooh.
It's my jam. Like that's my church. I typically don't always go with people because that's like, I need that solitude out there. But holy moly, I mean, it got to a place like I had to stay on this little trail. And so I kind of leaned into into the mountain, right? Until this landing. And then I look up and there's a rope to get you to the next over these boulders. And so of course I was like, okay, I saw people, who got up. So I did all that. But getting down, that was even more scary. And it was like the first time where I thought, I could literally die out here because it'd been raining, for the few days before. So it was a little slick and muddy. And you know what? There's no ego in needing to just get down safely. I slid on my ass as
Yeah.
long as I could because if I stood up in some of these parts, I just was really going to be, I was really scared. It was like my heart was beating. I acknowledged the fact, and I was like, fuck this. I'm sliding down on my ass. There's just no ego to be safe. Like, just be safe.
I mean, just you telling this story, literally, my legs are like rubber. I'm not kidding.
I'll have to find the YouTube video of that hike because after I was telling you, it's like after it, I went home and I Googled it, the hike, the trail itself, because someone said that someone had done like a drone video of it. Dude, if I had seen that drone video prior, there is no effing way I would have ever even done that hike. So there's a positive and a negative to everything, right? It's like I'm glad I did it and I was satisfied that I went up as far as I did. And I got to see some gorgeous views and it was magnificent, but it also made me realize, yeah, good thing is I don't have to go back up again.
Yeah, that
Like,
sounds
that was good. I'll stick to
terrifying.
different trails.
Yeah, that exposure is really scary
It
when you're on
is.
and it's just a big drop on the other side. So scary.
Yeah. What are some ways, what are some like some gentle ways for people to kind of get back in their body when they're feeling the fear, when they first are feeling it creep up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's like, I think fear can be felt. I mean, I think because it's such a core feeling, it can really be, I mean, it's a survival instinct. So like for example, like if you see something that is life threatening, you will get that adrenaline burst and be able to run as fast as you can. You won't even feel any tiredness in your muscles or anything like that. So there's like different kinds of fear. So there's that, which is like really like core and instinctual fear. And then there's a kind of fear that's just like more emotionally driven, worrying about other people, worrying about, oh, I really like this person. What if it doesn't work out? Like, what if this relationship just doesn't, what if this person ends up leaving me? Right. So there are different ways.
Catastrophizing things.
Yeah. So it's like it all comes from fear, but it can be in such different, in such different levels. So, I mean, on the instinctual level, I think when you have that instinctual kind of fear, which I have felt and it sounds like what you described feeling on that trail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just hard. Like you're in kind of like a survival, like your body just kind of takes over for you.
It's true.
Yeah.
I had to sit on towels on the way back because I had so much mud up my ass.
From sliding down. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like really happy when I got down to the car. Like there's something really satisfying about like seeing your car, you're on stable ground, and then you look up and go, I cannot believe. And that's when I could like enjoy the moment, right?
Yeah.
Until then, it was just fight or flight. This bitch is getting down this mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. So in those kinds of situations, I think it's really like you just have to kind of trust that your body is going to take care of you. And usually it does. Like it does do the best.
I don't remember how I got down other than the first moment of sliding. Like it was really like I went into a whole other space in my brain.
It's interesting. I was in Iceland last September, and there was
Yeah.
we did a 1 day hike that was 18 miles.
That's a big
And
day.
it was unbelievable. And the last 3 hours were really hard. I was having a lot of knee pain already by this point. So I was really struggling. And I was hiking ahead with two women who were really fast hikers ahead of everybody else. And we came to this. So they didn't tell us for some reason about this one area, but we got to this one area where you had to climb up onto these rocks, but it was a very thin top
Mm.
like that you had to get up on top of and kind of walk on, kind of like a little bridge to kind of get from like one set of rocks, and then it was like a whole canyon, and then to get to like the next set of ground. And
Yeah.
so you're just on this like bridge piece that I didn't know was coming. So I had one of these moments where my body took over. It wasn't until I was actually on it that I understood what was happening. And I had that adrenaline thing that happens. And literally for the next hour or 45 minutes, I had no pain because my body was pumping so much adrenaline through my body and probably a lot of cortisol. I just had like no sensation in my body of pain. So that was interesting. But I heard they told a story later about a man who on that trail did that same hike. He just got stuck there and
Mm.
he would not get off the rock. And they had to call in a rescue crew because he
Wow.
couldn't move.
Fear.
Fear, but like frozen fear.
Frozen fear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a rescue situation. He had to be rescued off the rock. I mean, it was wild. So, again, these are like different kinds of fear that we're talking about. I really, I don't know. I was afraid of encountering a bear. I wasn't really thinking that like I could die. I mean, sure, somewhere in there. And then there's just like the emotional fear of like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing with my life? And what if I hurt people? And what if this relationship doesn't work out? And what if I never find my person? That's
Right.
another one I hear a lot. What if I get old and I don't find my person? These
Yeah.
kinds of
8 billion people in the world, folks.
Yeah.
There is someone for you.
Yeah.
But no, I think that is a real fear because I think, especially with some of the later in lifers that you talk to and I have as friends, that they are really concerned, like, what is the grass actually greener on the other side? I mean, I think people get really fearful about that. And then when you have friends who really, really deeply want relationships and they're dating and they're taking their data and stock of that other person, there's just a lot of unknowns until you really get to know people. So how else does fear show up for people that they might not even realize it's actually fear?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen people that can be very angry, like their first
Yeah.
knee-jerk reaction is anger. But underneath that anger, there can be fear. So anger can be core. Anger is also actually a core emotion,
Yes.
but it can also be more secondary in that it's kind of the most easy to access emotion. So saying I'm really scared it's kind of vulnerable to admit that you're scared. Saying I'm really angry or being angry is less scary for a lot of people. And so fear can sometimes show up as anger.
How do we support our friends in those moments? What's like a helpful way that, we can support one another while someone is sitting in the fear?
Yeah, I mean, if a friend is sitting in the fear, I think just encouraging them to like really to not don't shut it down like, "Oh, you're going to be fine. You're strong. You're good. You're okay. You've made it through a lot of things or something." That just doesn't help at all. I
Yeah.
think really being curious, like tell me about this fear, like oh, tell kind of like just really staying with them, like, tell me more, like, wow, and how does that make you feel? And what's it like to think that that could possibly happen? And, let them go I always say, roll the tape out to the end. So if you have friends that are really experiencing that, can you sit with them and just let them share their fears and just be curious and let them roll the tape out to the end?
I love
And then
that.
you can validate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be scary. I get it.
Yeah.
That could be scary, you know?
So everything can, as long as we're like validating and leaning in with them and just saying like, yeah, because I asked one of my friends yesterday, I said, so where in your body do you feel this the most?
Yeah.
Like to try to like get her to like be focused on her own self.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's helpful, especially with parts work. Because parts will they kind of take over different parts of your body. So they kind of exist on a somatic level. So you can physiologically feel different parts when they're coming in, like maybe your palms are sweating, or maybe your chest is really tight, or maybe your throat is tight. You're having a hard time even talking. Usually that's related to a part that is coming up and is
Mhm.
closing your throat because you learned that it wasn't safe to speak honestly, maybe, or to speak your truth, or even to speak your fear, maybe. Um,
Mhm.
and so I think it's helpful in parts work to know where in your body you feel something so that the next time you actually end up feeling something in your body, you can name it. Oh, that's my really fearful part.
Is it helpful to like when you want to learn and combat your own fear, do you feel like it's better to like read books about it, or do you feel like being in therapy or listening to certain podcasts around fear? Like, what do you feel like could be helpful for those?
Yeah, I mean, I really, myself, I dip into everything that's possibly available. So
Yeah, I do too.
journaling, right? Journaling about your
Mm.
fears, talking about your fears, absolutely therapy. I mean, geez, I've been in therapy for like 32 years. I mean, really. Therapy is amazing. Also doing spiritual work. Like lately, I've been working with
Yeah,
Angela. And so working with a shaman, and she's really helped me with my fears and helping me understand on a spiritual level why I feel unsafe at times.
yeah.
And so I just think, any way you can educate yourself on really your whole emotional system, because unfortunately we just don't get this education in this country. Maybe in other countries they do, I'm not sure. But, we're walking around as emotional beings with an emotional system, and we are never taught what any of that means or how to work with it. So yeah, read, listen to podcasts, read, journal, work with a spiritual advisor, work in therapy. I think all of it.
I do too. When do you know that therapy isn't working and when like they should change therapists? I think that's I think an interesting conversation because people I believe are really nervous about like bringing on a new therapist and what that looks like. I mean, they might have fear around like telling their therapist, "Hey, I think I've outgrown this piece of it and need new perspectives and new modalities."
Yeah. I mean, I have a number of clients that I've been working with for close to, 10 years or something. And they've just been doing so well recently. And they have been fearful to tell me that they'd like to go to like every other week
Yeah.
instead of every week. And I'm so in support of my clients. I
Being
don't,
empowered basically to tell you that too.
yeah, like all of it. Like this is great news. And so, but that's a little bit different than kind of feeling like, oh, maybe my therapist isn't really a great match for me.
Right.
And I hear that often too. I mean, people come to me and have complained about, therapy and kind of being with people. I mean, certainly, obviously I work a lot with queer people. So being with a straight therapist, even if they're allied, or they're queer friendly, sometimes that's not enough for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I just think if you are not feeling understood and validated and really seen and deeply understood, by your therapist? I mean, of course, it takes a little bit of time, right? Are you doing a good job of really sharing yourself with your therapist so that they can see you?
Yep.
And if you aren't, are they able to say that to you? Like, hey, I notice it's hard for you to really open up and share with me what you're feeling, or how, like, is there a therapeutic relationship? Like, do you feel attached to this person, or are you only attached to them because you've told them your story and you've been seeing them for a little bit and you
Right.
don't want to start and share your story now with somebody new and start all over again with them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a big proponent of therapy, but so when I was going to ask for the divorce, I saw a therapist for that specific. And then
Mhm.
after the divorce, I changed therapist to
Mhm.
like move on through the next phase. And I think people forget that therapy is a tool, like, and a modality to healing and growing. And you're never stuck with one therapist. Like, you can move on and it's totally okay because your therapist obviously wants the best for you as well. And if they feel like, if you're expressing like, hey, I think we've come as far as we can, I don't think there's a wrong way to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I've had clients who have been doing the work for a number of years, and their changes are so huge. I mean, they're like really embodied and they're really in self energy. And then I have other clients who I've been working with for the same amount of time who have not arrived to that place.
Mm.
And that really has to do with how you go into therapy, and,
Mhm.
you know, what, like, going in with an intention of what you like. You went in for your divorce. You're like,
Yep,
I need to figure this out and get through this. This is my intention. This is what I'm here for.
that's right.
Even if you start to then go out into different directions from there, that's okay. But I think that not everybody in therapy will progress the same way.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you're in therapy and you're taking the time, like, really make sure you prepare, like, going in each week with like what it is, think about therapy during the week. Don't
That's the
only
work,
wait.
right? That's the work.
Yeah. Don't just like, oh, wow, I haven't, here I am. I literally haven't thought about anything we talked about since I saw you a week ago.
So many people do that.
I know. I know.
It blows my mind because I mean, if I'm going to spend in it's not even the money. It's usually like a $15 copay, but it's like, it's just my time is so valuable and what I want to accomplish in this lifetime and how I want to go about it. But I mean, I do think there's a lot of fear for people to like if we're a natural people pleaser, I realize that talk therapy for a lot of years, I freaking people pleased my therapist.
Yes. I get that a
Like,
lot.
you do?
I do. But yeah,
Oh,
I have a lot of clients that are just, I mean, they're like really scared to tell me things as if I were like their mother.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I really take that, just because I'm an older woman, I've now become their mother. And so they want to be really good clients. They want to be really good therapy patients. And so they will try to people please me. Which, we
I
work
thought that
on,
totally was something in my own brain that I was
obviously.
like, I think I people pleased and why talk therapy didn't really work for me, until I identified that, then it was a lot better to work through things.
Yep. Yep. Very
Isn't that crazy? It's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you people please, then you people please. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's with your therapist or with your friend or with your partner or with your family, like, you people please. So it's not going to be any different with the therapist.
So it's so interesting to me.
Yeah. We are interesting creatures.
Yeah, yeah, we're multi-dimensional, interesting, silly, fearful creatures. Anything else that people should know about fear or other than just inviting it in? Because I think you're a great example of what you did yesterday. And I think just sitting in it, I have friends who just hate when I say sit in the muck, just sit in the muck of it, no matter what is going on.
You know what? It's so uncomfortable. And I've been mucked up the last couple of weeks. I'm coming out the other side, but it is so uncomfortable. And one of the things that Angela has said to me is like, you just need to keep having grace and gratitude. And so that
That's it.
was what I was practicing during my last few weeks was just grace and gratitude.
Yeah, I think people really do forget to like say to yourself, this is fucking hard. This sucks ass. It won't be forever. And I just have to know that I'm okay. I'm gonna breathe through this
Mhm.
and that at some point it will all loosen up and I can just move on from here. But I do think giving yourself grace and being kind to yourself because our self-talk is everything.
Mhm.
And it's so fascinating how I think as a recovering people pleaser, it really is like you want to be so extra mindful that you are telling yourself that you're okay, but you're not people pleasing yourself in that sense. Like you can feel this deep feelings and it can really hurt. And you might, I mean, like some dark nights of the soul where you're just curled up in a ball and don't feel like eating and you're just crying and sometimes you don't even know what is happening in the moment. But it's crazy how you can wake up in the morning. I think you had a really profound moment like that where you're like, I feel lightness today, like seep through. And I think that's like a really beautiful aspect of healing and growing and moving through things is that you become so hyper aware of how your whole being is feeling that you almost want more of like, I want to go through more because it takes you closer to who you are.
Mhm.
And that's fucking cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love what you said. I love when you said um it's you're not going to feel like this forever. That's a really
Yeah.
important one, really big one. It's not going to be this way forever. I'm not going to feel this way forever, and you won't, because nothing is forever. So
No.
you won't, and then the other piece I think that's so important about this that you're talking about now is that in order to do this thing that you're talking about, getting to really know yourself and feel your way through all of this and really get to know yourself, we have to be able to slow down. I mean, the speed at which the last couple of years my life has been going, I was working 7 days a week for 3 years. And then just the last few months, I slowed down, after having this loss. And
Yeah.
it is in the slow down where we start to feel that deep discomfort,
Yep.
we really get to do some of this work. And I know a lot of people, you have young kids, and how do I slow down? I have a job, and um I how whatever ways you can create space for some, whether it's you get up earlier in the morning and you go for a walk around your block, or you sit on your front porch while you have whatever you can do to
Yeah.
start to slow down. Don't go out as often with everybody. Let your partner go out with your friends and take a night off and stay home with yourself. Like whatever you can do.
Agreed.
Yeah. You got to slow down to be able to go through this.
There's a Japanese word that, means silence and it's chinmoku. And it means silence in the sense of being reticent, like holding back. And I think here in America, I think we we just all work so fucking hard. Like no one's getting 6 weeks off. No, I mean teachers do, but they work so hard. They actually really need those
Yeah.
like 3 months, if it's even 3 months anymore. I don't even think it is. It's like, but regardless, I think here in America, I think slowing down, it feels like a sign of weakness for some people. And it's more, I mean, I look at it as a strength because it's one of those pieces where you are recognizing in yourself that you desperately need to be in the stillness of it. And that's why meditation is also so useful. And there's a walking, nature bathing is another term of, yesterday you went on a hike, but if you were like with a friend or just the dogs, you might just call it nature bathing, where you're just enjoying, the trees, and you're noticing the wind and how it feels and how it sounds through the trees, and just being sort of in that present of mind. But I think there's something really profound, and I have seen it in you in real time. I mean, we Marco Polo throughout every day
Yeah.
and like share pretty much what's completely on our minds, which I think is such a freaking cool ass thing.
Yeah.
But watching you go through your father's passing and the business of death, and then when the stillness occurred where the house was just on, like, things were happening, and now it was out of your control, like you'd done all this busy physical stuff around after the death, and then there's this quiet period where you're kind of just in a waiting, in a holding zone. And I really saw a few days for you where it was a struggle bus big time. You were just like, I don't even know how to be like in this space. What kind of things maybe were helpful for you, for other people who today might be listening and struggling with something, and scared to just kind of slow down?
Yeah. I mean, it is scary. And, where we value productivity over everything, right? So, and I've been a highly productive human, and that's how I know myself. And so this shock of how my father, the way the passing happened, which just wasn't what I expected, and then all the feelings that came up with it, it really just knocked me off my productivity flow. And I felt really lost, and like I actually just didn't even know who I was anymore,
I
which
think
was
it's also important to
terrifying.
tell people that you don't have siblings to bounce off of. You're an
Yeah.
only child, which
Yes.
I think made it, a lot more profound for you, because yes, you have really close friends in your life and chosen family, but it's not the same of like looking at your sibling and going like, whoa, this is like, we're like, you have a partner in that, like a
Yes.
built-in partner.
Yes. Yeah. And so at a time when I'm single, and at a time, with no sibling to bounce any of this off of, and also having two businesses that I've been running and working 7 days a week for a couple of years now, it was, I mean, all of it was just, I don't even know. It was like nothing what I expected. I never expected to feel any of the things that I felt. I really thought I was very prepared for all of it. I found myself highly unprepared for the emotional aspect of feeling like the rug got pulled out from underneath me, in a way where I was kind of looking back and I was just like, wow, like I lived my entire life in reaction to my father, which was shocking to see from the place I now was standing. And so I think that kind of threw me into a little bit of a, well, if that's the case, then who am I? Like if
Right.
I'd just been living in reaction to this man who I love dearly and also was extremely misogynistic, then what? Then what now? Like who am I if that's just all I've been? So
And empty nester.
yeah, and then empty nest recently,
Right.
single.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of adjustment. It's a big adjustment period these last 8 months.
Yeah, very just life altering. This year has been very life altering for me. And I still
Yeah.
don't have any real answers.
Right.
So, I think what's helpful is to like be okay not needing answers, which is really
Yes.
hard. So, like, my therapist has said to me, like, do not knowing,
Right.
do not knowing. So, I'm doing not knowing. That's what I'm doing. I don't know.
Well, and
I don't know.
and Angela told you something similar, right?
Yes.
It's like just walk your path, and just and basically you're just a knowing about yourself. Like, I know me, and I know I'll get through this. Again, it's like it won't be forever.
Yes.
But knowing that, at some point it's all gonna open up. It's all gonna show you the lessons. It's all gonna show you your new path. And slowly but surely it's starting to reveal itself.
Yeah. One other piece about this that I thought was really interesting was there were moments as I was going through it where I mean, these were my own feelings, but I had feelings of like, oh, wow, like, am I depressed? And, or like, wow, this feels like the few times in life where I was depressed, after I met
Mhm.
my husband and got married, I had a few bouts of depression, which once I came out, I've never had, but it was that feeling. I was like, wow, I almost feel like maybe I'm depressed. And I had a friend say to me, it sounds like you're depressed and you might want to think about going on medication. Now,
Mhm.
I'm a therapist, so I
Right.
support people choosing medication
Yeah.
when they need that. I absolutely am in support of that, but it shocked me when she said that because I really did not feel like it was that. It was more of a life change. And I knew it would shift. I knew that however dark I was and however lost I was, that I was not going to stay that way.
Mhm.
And people might, but I was able to get up. I was able to do my sessions. I was able to do my day. It was just when I was not working that I was really like kind of not okay with
Yeah.
myself. But it was just this idea of like, well, maybe you should go on medication, which is like so much of what our society is about is like, well, let's get rid of that feeling for you. And I think I needed to actually, whatever was happening with me, I needed that to get wherever I'm going. I needed to experience that.
I think that's where the uncomfortability, that's not even probably a word, but the uncomfortableness of growth and like what really pushing through the big stuff is, it feels exactly as you were describing that. Like you want to go through it sober because feeling it actually reminds you you're still alive a little bit. There's like this piece in your life. And I know you and I have journaled like lifelong journalers, and like sometimes through these moments, it's okay to give yourself grace and like, I don't fucking feel like journaling sometimes now. Like, I just need to feel the feeling and not try to come up with words around the feeling.
Yep. Yep.
Because
Yeah.
I remember you experienced something like that too. You're like, I don't have words for what's happening.
I
And
lost
that's why
words
I
for
was
a few
like,
days.
it's the
Yep.
spiritual shit. It is, it is. It like, it really comes through.
Yeah, yeah, I had a couple people check on me, including you, and are you okay? What's going on? And I just said, I have no words. And I just
Mhm.
had no words. I just was in it, but I did come out the other side,
Yeah, you did.
So yeah.
I'm so
Yay.
proud of you. Well, I
Thank
mean, I think like when you have a friend who's a therapist, there's a lot of times where you could think, oh, they've got the tools, they've got the mechanism. But in fact, it's like one of those things where they need to be checked on a little bit more too, because when you're dealing with a human experience, spiritual experience through your humanness, there's two ways you can go about it. One is completely just lose yourself and dip out for too long, which depression can take over, and
Yes.
and so then, as friends, it's like, okay, now we have to do something different. Or it's just a reminder about your humanness and saying, all right, how you feeling? How are you feeling in your body today? Like registering that and knowing that this is just what it is for this time being until it's no longer. Like, just like if you have to go back a couple of times, people, and it's your first girlfriend, it's your second girlfriend, and you thought they were the one, and you have to keep going back and keep going back. It's like you got to do it until you're ready to skip out,
Yep.
or something shifts and you guys finally connect on the same page and you get to like have that relationship.
Yeah. You're not done until you're done.
Yeah, and that's with everything. I think it's like you're just not done until, like you said, one day you're like, oh, okay. I don't know exactly if the lightness is going to stay for a little bit. Like I like, because it was almost like the same way of like adding fear, like asking fear into dinner. Like, okay, is the lightness going to stay and have breakfast with me? And then I'm going to have a few more waves. Like, let's just see how this goes. And it did. You had a few more waves sometimes, some
Yeah.
days you were clear. And then lately you've been a little bit less fearful.
Yeah. And I think that, you know what, it really like what these last few months have been like living in every single moment. Like I don't even make decisions until the last minute, which is not how I've lived any of my life ever.
Right.
I am the most highly planned. I can tell you every time of everything I'm going to be doing for weeks into the future. And I don't have that now. And so there's been something I think also out there for those of you that are going through something difficult and you just don't know how it's going to turn out, to let yourself stop trying to figure that out
Yeah.
and just be right here, right now, and then be in the next minute, and
That's
then
right.
be in the next minute
Stay
with
present.
things that are soothing to you as best as possible. Like, even if you're a super busy person, you've got young kids and job and all that, find little spaces of time, whether it's meditation or journaling or just sitting like nature bathing, whatever it is, find ways to be present moment oriented.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have kids at home, sometimes let's just all go walk to the park, because that might just be the moment where they're preoccupied with other kids and you're still on mom duty, but you can take those few seconds and just like appreciate the park for what it is, like giving the kids a little bit of peace, giving yourself a little bit of peace. So I think you're right. I think just staying super present and all that, but yeah, I mean, it's a really fascinating topic. I know there's a ton of books on fear. There's even podcasts if you search under fearful, attachments or other things, that I think that there's a lot of tools or a lot of opportunities to like lean in and read more about it. But thank you for sharing today.
Yeah, it was
This is,
great to be here. It's a
I
great
know.
topic. It's a topic that again I hear about so much, and it makes me very sad to hear about people who get stuck in the
Mhm.
fear and then they don't move forward and actually continue to actualize themselves, but they let the fear stop them for fear of hurting other people. I mean, this is just something I hear so much.
So true. So, and in the place of that, it's self-sabotage or anxiety, Pete, and it just bubbles and bubbles, as opposed to it like you just saying, hello, let me just identify this for a minute and then push the fear away. Like, bye-bye, at least for the moment, right? Like, just because you're not gonna like self-profile fulfilling prophecy, right? Of like, I'm gonna have it, this is gonna be the same feeling I have tomorrow too. It may not.
Right.
So deal with it as like in the most present tense that you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love you and I appreciate you.
Oh, right back at you. Love you so much. You're such a great friend. So
I know,
grateful.
I know, I'm grateful too. So thanks everybody for listening today. And if you have a friend who you feel could use the wisdom of Samantha and some of these great tips, then please share the podcast.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Bye, Michele.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.